All right. Hey guys, welcome. This is a podcast I'm doing with Mike Collins, the founder of sugaraddiction.com. And we're going to be talking all about sugar today and answering any questions my questions to Mike all about sugar and addiction, which I think we all have anyway, especially in this day and age. So welcome, Mike. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. I
No
appreciate
problem.
it.
No problem, it's my pleasure. I just want to start really by just asking you, how did you come about becoming this sugar guy, the sugar addiction guy?
The sugar-free man, that's what they
Yes.
call me. It's kind of crazy, but I think I came by it honestly, as they say. My mom was a sugar junkie. She loved sugar. It's kind of a sad story, but when she was younger, when my grandmother died when she was only 8 years old, my mom's mom. So they owned a little country store across the way. And then whenever she came in, they had made an agreement that they could just give her candy and put it on the account. And so she really, really genuinely grew up thinking sugar was love for everyone. And we grew up that way. We had unfettered access to the sugar bowl. I mean, it was wild, really. We didn't scrape out a quarter-inch or a half-inch of sugar with the cereal and the milk. We didn't put enough sugar on it. So yeah,
Wow.
I mean, she had a stash, right? She had a sugar stash, a candy stash. We always knew where it was, and we
Yeah.
tried to not only steal enough that she didn't notice or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we just there's a great video on YouTube, Eric Clapton talking about this, and he talks about bread and butter and sugar sandwiches, and we used to eat those, right?
Yeah.
So Ed Bradley from 60 Minutes says, Eric, so this addiction thing started with heroin, right? And Eric Clapton says, no, Ed, it started with sugar. And I used to eat bread and butter and sugar sandwiches to change my state. And remember that because it's
Wow.
important as we go forward that people really don't equate with sugar much, which is like alcohol and drugs, changing how you feel, right? So
Mm-hmm.
fast forward, I loved it as a kid. I collected candy cards. They don't even have them anymore out of the wrappers and
Yeah.
stuff instead of baseball cards,
Yeah.
and just crazy uh, gorging on candy. I mean, our thing. I was still Halloweening and at 14, 15, 16 years old, getting gigantic bags of candy just to have,
Mm.
and it was crazy. And so then fast forward, I discovered beer at 14 or 15, and I knew that changed my state. I knew I was feeling different. I was a little shy and introverted and whatever, and I could talk to girls, and it was different. It was just very. I could. They used to call it liquid courage or whatever. So
Yeah.
then fast forward that again to 28, I got sober. That's another story. If you want to hear it, I'm an open book. But as I got sober, I realized that not only me, but everybody around me that was getting sober, getting off drugs, they were just really substituting sugar again. They were just going back to
Mm.
sugar. And that's what I did. I mean, so many people do that substitution and then they
Yeah.
start, yeah, right?
So
Diabetes and stuff. So then I got married and we had a couple of kids, and we somehow I talked my wife at the time into having two kids sugar free from the womb.
wow.
And
Oh,
yeah, it was hard. And that lasted till I was about 6 years old. They were about 6 years old. And then about 10, I went on to have a regular business career, a life, and, mostly
mm-hmm.
online stuff. And my kids always said I should write a book about sugar, whatever, because they had a weird childhood, obviously, because, they had to tell everybody they didn't need sugar and at school and everything. So, but anyway, I bought the name sugaraddiction.com over 10 years ago, and I started giving really, really good information out. And
Mm-hmm.
some people would take it and run with it. They would figure it out, whatever. But for the most part, I didn't really get really started until about 3 or 4 years ago when I started offering coaching and building these online support groups. And that's when it
Yeah.
really took off and people really needed the service. And so that kind of brings us up to date. It's a short podcast version of how I
Well,
became the sugar free man or the sugar guy or whatever. I
yeah.
never signed up for this, Katrina. I didn't want to be the anti candy man, but
Yeah.
I just couldn't watch the poor, when you see an overweight kid, it's really hurts your heart because
Oh, I know.
the kids, they can be cruel at that age, and
Mhm.
they're not doing it purposely, and they regret it as an adult. But when
Yeah.
they're, they tease, right? And that's
Yeah.
hard for the kid,
Definitely. And when the kid becomes an adult, it stays with them. They have feelings of unworthiness and not good enough. And that
Right,
stays with them
right.
in their professional life, their relationships, and all
Yeah, and it's not their fault, because
no,
they didn't buy the food.
no,
They're not,
exactly.
they don't go to the grocery before they're 8 or 10 and then buy the food. They're like, it's,
Exactly. And
yeah.
like you said before, like I do think our addictions just start with that, we see sugar as love and comfort from a young age. And then growing
Sure.
up in our adolescent stages, again, we're reaching for sugar. I remember being at uni and studying and doing all-nighters of studying and working hard and just having packets of biscuits around me. And
Mm.
I did something completely different to what I'm in now, so I wasn't aware of all the health, and obviously I knew it wasn't good, but I couldn't help myself. Alcohol, all of that stuff, and you just feel like rubbish. And it's not good for productivity, as I'm sure you know.
No, not
Well,
at all.
so
No,
yeah.
it's the gateway drug. It's the original
Yeah.
drug, and people just will not. Well, they have not yet, put it that way,
Mm,
accepted the idea that this is a powerful psychoactive that is very subtle in its use for energy and self-esteem and feeling better,
yeah.
and putting off feelings of hurt and worry and pain and guilt. I mean, it'll just stunt the feelings for a little bit, right? It'll make you
Yeah.
feel better.
Yeah.
And that's really where the problem lies in the long run. People know about the body and the glucose, right? That causes diabetes and heart
Mhm.
disease and all these other things, but they don't really know that the other half of the sugar molecule, the fructose, and the science is really clear now in the last 5 years that it operates on the nucleus accumbens and the brain reward chemicals, right?
Mhm.
And so the serotonin, the dopamine, mostly dopamine, GABA, all these things are affected by the fructose and the sugar in general in the brain, the flood of insulin. And
Yeah.
it just really creates this perfect storm for consistent cravings and continued use, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I like to have podcasts. I like to be on podcasts because we don't have a meat is murder or friends don't let friends drive drunk. We don't have one of these taglines. It
Mhm.
takes a little bit of an explanation because today in today's society, you can literally give this product to a baby, to a 1-year-old, no moral or ethical or legal worries. And people just don't understand unless you've been there, right? Unless you've actually, weighed 200 or 300 pounds overweight and lost the weight and,
Yeah.
recovered from sugar addiction or food addiction, power, flour and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
then you don't have a frame of reference, in a
Mm.
sugar soaked society. And it takes some time for people to listen to the information and maybe see if it's for them.
Definitely, definitely. And what would you say would be the first place to start? Let's say you may not even be overweight, or you may be 100 pounds overweight and you have this addiction, you're super aware of it, but you just can't
Mm,
help but snack, and then one
right.
1 hour later you want something else. Where
Sure.
do where would somebody start the sugar addiction riddled person?
That's a very good question. And that's really at the heart of the dilemma, if you will.
Mm,
What happened, you'll see the studies out there, like most diets say, quit the white stuff and that's how you lose weight. And when people do that, 90 plus, because they can lose whatever amount of weight, 90+% of them gain it all back in the first year, right?
yeah.
And it's not about weight really, but that's kind of a good marker for the sugar. And so what they need to do really is they need to kind of understand that we are a little bit different sometimes biochemically, and that it's okay to be different, and that if our body biochemically doesn't accept sugar well and without setting up cravings for more, then possibly this type of information might be good for them. And the reason that it's difficult or seemingly difficult is there are real physical withdrawals. I mean, it's you're irritable and hungry and tired and lethargic and thirsty. And I mean, just, you end up sleeping for 3 or 4 days. It's just your body's healing up. It's recovering. And so you got to get through that physical part, but that's not the hardest part, strangely enough. The harder part is to get through the mental crutch that you've used it for, right? The mental, I like this saying that snacking is not a nutritional event. It's an emotional event, right? It's something where you're taking a break, getting a little bit of a respite from your day. And you get a little bit of the dopamine, The main thing, if people can cleave it apart, if they can understand that, yes, we share our mouth and our throat as a delivery system with these products, these food products, right? Sugar and flour, then we can understand that we need to eat whole food, right? Like, you inject heroin, you drink alcohol, you smoke cigarettes, you snort cocaine. Well, we eat this product, okay? Traditionally, that's how it's been formulated and formed, is that, and you can snort sugar and it will burn your nostrils, but traditionally we eat it, right? And so you've got to separate it out and understand that you're not looking for that sweet taste. It's literally the universe's cruel joke that this stuff tastes good, right? Because alcohol doesn't taste so good. Cigarettes the first time doesn't taste so good, but you like the buzz, so you continue.
Yeah.
But sugar tastes sweet, right? And so you've got to separate that out in your mind and not use your mouth and your throat and your stomach to deliver not a sweet taste, but a dopamine hit. Now, that's the hard part. If you can, it's like my job is to reframe the science that exists today in this kind of underground. That's what our summits are. You'll put it in the show notes. You said the Quit Sugar Summit. All the scientists have been studying for years is that we can show them that when they ingest sugar, they get this. If you put them in an MRI, it literally lights up just like you were doing alcohol or cocaine or heroin, right? Wow. And it's like, but now those things we're only doing a little bit of, right? We're doing a little alcohol, a little heroin, a little whatever. Sugar, we are pounding 20 teaspoons average. And on a heavy person, a heavy habit, probably a heavy person, but a heavy habit, 30, maybe 40 teaspoons of sugar a day.
Yeah.
And we've never had a break. Since we were a kid, we've never had a 1 day or 2 day break.
No.
And yeah, okay, it's playing with your weight, it's playing with your sleep, but more importantly, it's playing with your nucleus accumbens, your brain reward chemicals. Yeah. So again, I get on a soapbox sometimes, but it's a real, again, takes a little bit of setup, a little bit of explanation. Yeah. But if this information, it resonates with you, then maybe a little little more exploration might help.
For sure. And when it comes to natural sugars like apples and fruit, for instance, there's like 25 grams of sugar or carb in an apple, of which the same amount sugars, because it's pretty much all sugar, isn't it? So would that have the same effect on your brain chemistry as a 25 gram worth of sugared chocolate, for instance?
Yeah, you're bringing up something I get a lot of blowback on. I get a lot of pushback. It's a tough
one, isn't it? Because people say, "Oh, it's natural. It's a natural sugar."
So let me tell you the short story of. There's a great. He was already on Monday. Dr. Gary Fettke. He's got a YouTube video called "Is Fruit Good for You?"
Okay.
And in the early days, what we found in the early days of trying to get off sugar, is that the brain doesn't really know the difference between the fructose in table sugar and the fructose in fruit. It sets up the cravings, right? It continues the cravings. Now, we have people use maybe a little blueberries, which are lower glycemic, little raspberries or something to, help them with the withdrawal sometimes.
Yeah.
But in the long run, you find that fruit will, especially fruit juice, and forget about dried fruit. That stuff is like
Oh
candy.
yeah.
It's just straight
Suck the
fructose, you know?
fiber out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's just straight fructose. And it's what you're trying to avoid, at least in the first 30, 60, 90 days, is setting up the cravings again, right? And like, forget about fruit juice, because literally it slams the liver just like a Coca-Cola does, because fructose cannot be processed anywhere but the liver, right? And we have a literal epidemic of 4, 5, and 6-year-olds with fatty liver disease. This is an alcoholic's disease because they're eating so much sugar. They're not drinking any alcohol. They're eating sugar, and their liver just can't handle it. And so I like to talk about the fructose as the psychoactive part of the sugar, while the glucose will the glucose side of the molecule will raise your insulin resistance and cause metabolic syndrome and diabetes 2 and all that. The reason you can't stop, we know that decimates the body. The reason you can't stop, the reason it is sugar addiction, is because the fructose part of the molecule is acting on the nucleus accumbens and the brain reward chemicals so constantly, day in and day out. So that's the fruit thing. Look, I get a lot of pressure around that, because somehow back in the day, and Dr. Fecky talks about it, it used to be the green grocer, and some great marketing tool put the two together. And I want to like throw this out there, because fruit 300 years ago looked like those little crab apples you see, or it looked like a banana was like you couldn't even eat it. It was just a seed pod. There was no real fruit around it. So they've been hybridized for 300 years for what? For sweetness, for fructose, right? And they've become these big fructose, basically a processed food made from a branch. And in that process, they've taken out everything. Look at a navel orange or a seedless grape. You can't, this would fall to the ground. It would never reproduce. It had to have been produced by man, right?
Yeah.
And so that they're just this gigantic, beautiful, sweet tasting fructose bomb that it will keep your active, the activity of your nucleus accumbens, like Pavlov's dogs, right? You're thinking about a little bit of sugar. You're thinking about, you know what I mean? And that's what you want to try and eliminate in the early days, so that it's not annoying, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. It's tough, isn't it? So would you recommend literally people going cold, sober, just stop sugar completely from the get-go if they're trying to lose weight,
Sure.
for instance, and get healthier?
Yeah, cold turkey is one way or the other. You're gonna eventually have to stop, and and I have a little step down protocol.
Okay.
Like I include caffeine in mine because it jacks your insulin, and it hits the nucleus accumbens, and it's always been combined with sugar, right? In other words, in coffee and chocolate and cocoa, whatever, tea. The neural pathways that are grooved in your brain, right? They don't, not that they don't. You ever hear the phrase "they're wired together, fired together"? So that, like, you've been eating or drinking coffee or eating chocolate for a long time, and then all of a sudden you just stop the sugar part of it. Well, the brain chemicals are still getting activated by the caffeine. So now you're again in that Pavlov's dog thing. You're like, kind of annoyed. You don't get the other half of your sweet or whatever. I call it it's a speedball. It's what John Belushi died of, cocaine and heroin, right? It's upper and a downer. And so that's what, coffee and chocolate is, right? And you're taking away half of that, right? And so you're still irritable about, you're craving the stuff. So I have the folks step down off the coffee, literally use the sugar and flour to get off the coffee as a methadone or Suboxone.
Okay.
Then they do the sugar, then they do the flour. Okay, in that order, so that they can kind of step down. But regardless, you got to go through withdrawals, cold turkey on each one. Yeah. And if you're really brave, you do it all at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you're like, any adult who reaches adulthood with any kind of habit for these three, that tries it all at the same time. And from doing over thousands of these things, I understand that in days 3 through 5 or 2 through 5 or 7, you literally are almost incapacitated with headaches, lethargy, literal kind of depression,
Mhm.
because your dopamine and
Yeah,
serotonin is no longer being manually manipulated, right?
yeah, for sure.
So it's again, it takes a little time for the all of the information of people who've kind of gone through this to get out to folks who kind of do it unconsciously. They don't think about it. They just have
Mhm.
been eating it all their life, so they don't think about it.
Yeah. And when people are doing this, like, what's the success rate of people actually managing to get through the first 2 to 7 days and overcoming all these down points? Do many people quit, or
Oh,
what is the kind of rate of success here? Because
that's
I
a
know
great.
it's tough.
Yeah, no, it's a hard
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Um, we have a better success rate since we've formed the kind of a tribe, the group, and
Hmm.
we've got 7,000 people on Facebook and a
Wow.
group, and we've got a lot of people now, and so we're building a little tribe, and that's been successful. But we have, it's interesting you ask this question, because we have something we call retreads, and retreads are people who come to try and then kind of disappear for months or years at a time. And they, one thing we're kind of proud of is we really screwed up their sugar use. I feel bad about it, but they can't enjoy it like they used to,
Yeah, yeah.
because now it's like you can't ring a bell. You can't unlearn this stuff once you've seen it in action. And like, say you get 15 days or 30 days and then you fall back, right? You're
Hmm.
like, you felt better, you lost some weight, your skin looked better, your brain fog cleared up, your acne cleared up. I mean, a lot of things clear really quickly. And it's like I've never seen anybody go a full 90 days true access to through true abstinence
Hmm.
and turn back. Now they may slip once in a while or whatever, but they're they're pretty much committed for life. It takes that long. One of my mentors says it takes 6 months. You're not even relapsing until after 6 months, because it's all just part of the process. And so going back and forth like you're describing literally is part of the process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I think I heard it takes like at least 2 cycles of 21 days to form a new habit. So
Yeah.
I guess that 90 days kind of concretes it in, so
Yep.
that people are able to have the full kind of length of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then to
Yeah.
just, yeah. And then how do you find, post 90 days, how are people living their lives? Like, are they able to overcome this habit for the longevity of it, or like, do they still need ongoing support, is, I guess, my roundabout
You,
question.
you must have some experience at this, because you're asking all the intuitive questions,
Mm,
and all the questions that we cycle through all the
yeah.
time, which is, you know, do, our main question: do I have to do this for the rest of my life? People get
Yeah.
a little nervous that they'll never have birthday cake or wedding
Mm,
cake or whatever, and they'll never celebrate again
yeah.
in the ways that we knew celebrating, right? Which
Yeah.
I think need adjusting. But anyway, but yeah, the answer to your question is it depends. And what it depends on is whether or not folks are willing to step up to the mental part of the game. Because what has to happen, and I call it we actually have developing a program called Days 90 through 365,
Okay.
where everything has to change. How you manage your emotions has to change. You've got to substitute walking, yoga, massage, a sunset, a hug, different things for what you used to use sugar or flour for.
Mm,
So instead of being, upset or hurt or angry or frustrated. Now, look, your mom trained you this way. She was busy. She had other kids. She had a job,
mhm.
whatever. She
Yeah.
would hand you a cookie when you were upset, point you to the television, right? And that learning, that training made that happen to you. I mean, when was the last time you saw a movie where a girl broke up with a guy and didn't have an ice cream party, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's this cultural knowing almost, where people have come to manage their emotions. And because this stuff is almost free, you can get it anywhere for less than $1 or a pound. And you're ending up able to access it at all times. There's a very common construct in the world of alcohol and drugs, in that if you started using alcohol and drugs when you were 14 or 15 years old, you stopped growing emotionally. Now think about this for a minute. You weren't good at relationships and career and taking responsibility and money. And this probably shows in your lifestyle in the drug world, right? Mm-hmm. Well, think about the idea that you may have stopped growing emotionally, or you started using other things emotionally, using sugar as an emotional salve or balm to help you feel better since you were a baby, right? And that process has to be unlearned, relearned. It's like learn how to walk again, right? You've got to be able to understand what was happening, what did happen to you, what is happening to you now, and be able to substitute that that old emotions management system, usually before run by sugar, and use new tools. And those have to be installed, if you will, in your software, your bodily mental software, while you're detoxing. Because if you wait and do it white knuckle, bite your tongue, never use sugar and don't do what I'm describing to you, then sooner or later you'll come upon an emotional event that you can't white knuckle through. Your muscle memory, your brain memory. I heard a great quote the other day that dopamine is your brain's way of saying it loves itself, right?
Wow, I've not heard that one before.
Right? I mean, it's like dopamine doesn't care. It's totally discriminatory in the idea where it gets its hit.
Yeah.
It could be illicit sex, it could be gambling, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, and it could be sugar. And if you're in need of a dopamine hit, and you have a death in the family or a divorce or financial troubles, after you're white knuckled sugar and you're just really strong and willpower and exercise, 9 months, I see so many athletes who've done it via substituting the dopamine hits of hard workouts for sugar and flour, and they do well. They have muscle memory, they can do it. But that's not enough. They need to have another bunch of ways that they soothe themselves, self-soothe, and release these normal natural chemicals. I mean, heck, look at serotonin re-up to SSRIs, dope or Valium and Paxil and all these kinds of things that people get for depression, right? Mm-hmm. This is doctors trying to dial in your serotonin. They're trying to dial in what your brain is supposed to be doing naturally. But sugar has and they never ask them, are you eating a lot of sugar, right? It's been pounding these. What happens is, scientifically, just so you know, is your dopamine receptors are called down-regulated. They're actually thinned out. You have less of them. And so it takes a while to regain them. And exercise will help in that process. Not for calories, not for weight loss and burning calories, but to rehab your brain and to get it better. So I don't know. I end up running off on my, talking a lot on this stuff because I'm so passionate about it. But
I can tell.
you get the idea, and I don't get too many platforms where someone like your audience would be interested in this type of information.
Yeah, I think it's relevant to every single person on the planet, I honestly do. And all my clients, we've all got sugar addictions, including myself. I've gone through, I've lost a load of weight before, and then I put a little bit on, obviously knowing how to lose weight, I would do it again. And, it's hard, it's a journey, and it's something I'll be honest, I'm still on this journey of cutting out sugar completely. I try my best and use alternatives, but try and keep it natural. But, I had a birthday just yesterday and had some cake, And you just can't help but want it. And I think part of it is not wanting to miss out as well, especially in social situations when people are
Well,
around.
you're hitting it on the head. The social part is probably one of the bigger parts of the puzzle.
Definitely.
And I want to tell you happy birthday, first of all.
It wasn't my birthday. It was somebody else's.
Anyway, I mean, what I'm getting at here is that you are not alone. And I have been on addiction podcasts like drug and alcohol recovery and all kind of health podcasts like this and weight loss podcasts or people that have lost weight. And I'm telling you, 50% of the hosts at the end make this same confession. They say, I had you on because I'm still having a difficulty with sugar. And so the people that are recovering from alcohol and drugs are like, I've been sober 10 years, but I cannot put this sugar down, right? And that behooves the power of the psychoactive nature of the drug, because these folks know about addiction. They understand addiction, but they still cannot just say no to this substance, right? And that is my definition of addiction. So
like they say, it's more addictive than cocaine, right? So
they say that, but that's in rats, and I believe it, but I can't say it because Facebook whacked me one time for saying it.
Really?
Well, it wasn't me. It was somebody in one of my groups, and they put this warning. This might be false information or something like that. So I can't do that anymore. I got to be careful because Facebook's, God when it comes to getting information out.
Yeah, you got to be careful on there, definitely. But just, I guess, as long as you try and speak your truth, then that's what you can do. So, Mike, let us know where people can find you and how you can help us further, should they need your help.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Right now, and I was amazed that you'll be able to turn this around this quickly. We are having a Quit Sugar Summit on quitsugarsummit.com, and there'll be a link in the show notes for you. Okay. What it is we have almost 60 scientists, the biggest and the best in the world. We've got a couple people from the UK, a dentist from the UK, and another, the Unwins from the UK. Amazing folks, Dr. David and Jen Unwin, and a lot of folks from all over the world, South Africa, Australia, a lot in the United States, who have been studying sugar for a really long time. This is our 6th annual summit. It's the Quit Sugar Summit. And there's nothing you won't know about sugar after this is over. It's free to the public, so just go sign up and check it out. And if they're interested in our programs at sugaraddiction.com, you can go there and download the free book, which was on Amazon as a bestseller. And we give it away now free on the book on the website. Just download it. It's The Last Resort Sugar Detox. You'll see a big yellow copy there. And we have a challenge not every month. You can do it. You can start at any time, but we do start a group every month as well, which is a 30-day challenge to get off of sugar. And we've had a lot of podcasters do it with their audience. It's really worked out pretty well. You might want to talk to our guys about that. That'd be cool. But it's a lot of success stories, and we got a lot going on, and we're kind of passionate about getting this message out, especially. We're starting to understand now that women are the childbearing years. A couple of folks on the summit are talking about the children and stuff. So, it's been a ride. I guess kind of the public is catching on, put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like I said before, I think everyone can do with it and have that support as well. It's very much needed. It's so hard to do it on your own and have that power and determination. So. Yeah, thank you for what you do, and thank you so much for all your knowledge and information today. Much appreciated.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we got together.
No problem. And I'll drop all your stuff down in the links below, and people can find you there. So
thank you so much. Send it over when you do, and we will get it out on our social as well.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, thanks very much. Take care. Bye. Bye-bye.